Attention, future consultants. Time is running out to join the February Strategy Sprint Consulting project. What is Strategy Sprint and why should you consider it? Well, if you're a sophomore in undergrad, an advanced professional degree candidate, or an experienced hire, Strategy Sprint is an amazing opportunity for you to, number one, test out consulting to see if it's right for you. Number two, add some amazing experience to your resume to bulk it up ahead of applications. And then number three, to get mentorship from a former McKinsey, Bain, and BCG consultant. Strategy Sprint is a 1-week virtual consulting project that works with your schedule, for your schedule, and is an amazing opportunity to bulk up your resume and gain new skills. Strategy Sprint runs February 1st through the 7th, 2025, and there are just a couple of spots left. Grab your seat at the link in this episode's show notes. Welcome back to another episode of Strategy Simplified. In today's special episode, you're going to get to hear an intimate discussion with 6 leaders at top consulting firms who are going to share the honest truth about what it's like to work as a woman in consulting and what it takes to build a great career. No BS, just the real raw truth. Thanks to Bain & Company, Bates White, Capco, Clarkston Consulting, Clearview Healthcare Partners, and Putnam for making this an epic episode. Make sure to visit the link in the show notes to connect with these firms and to learn about job opportunities. By the way, if you represent a consulting firm and you're looking to build your brand awareness and talent pipeline, reach out today to learn about opportunities to help build your pipeline through custom event and podcast collaborations with Management Consulted. We'd love to hear from you. The email is advertising@managementconsulted.com. All right, let's get into the episode.
Welcome, everyone, to Women in Consulting. We are really excited to have some esteemed panelists on the call today. We're going to share their perspective, their experience. You're going to be impressed, delighted, moved by the conversation that we have in the call today. And so just to kick us off, I'm going to do a quick roll call for each of our folks. For each of the panelists, we would just love to begin to get to know you. If you could please introduce yourself, the firm that you work for, and any specialty areas that you're working in inside the firm. And then one reason to kick off that you think women should consider a career in consulting. In addition, the question that always comes up in the chat about 700 times is whether or not your firm hires international candidates. And it doesn't matter at all what the answer is. It just matters that there is an answer so that people know when they are trying to recruit from an international perspective. So we'll begin with Bain & Company. Jackie, welcome to the panel.
Great. Thank you so much, and nice to meet you all virtually through this format. My name is Jackie Flanagan, and I'm a partner at Bain & Company. First, let me briefly introduce Bain. So Bain & Company is the leading global management consulting firm, advising executives on a broad range of strategy-related topics. And the only other thing I'll share is our mission. Our mission is to help our clients create such high levels of value that together we set new standards of excellence in our respective industries. And I'm incredibly proud to have many stories that align with that mission. And so about me, I've been at Bain for nearly a decade now and a partner for the last nearly 4 years. I actually come to Bain as also a non-traditional background. I'm a scientist by training. I have a PhD in biophysics from Hopkins Med. I chose Bain as a happy accident, and I started by exploring a broad range of industries and topics before zeroing in on life sciences. So I spend all of my time now in pharma R&D, helping bring new molecules to market for a broad range of patients and diseases. Outside of that at Bain, I'm extremely passionate in the day-to-day about mentoring a broad range of amazing women in all different tenures and roles in our firms. And finally, I'll share that I am a mom of 2 little ones. I have an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old, so about an 18-month gap there. And I'm really loving kind of the work-life balance I have now. That maybe was my reason for why consulting is right for women. I actually think there's a very unique way to strike a balance between your personal and professional life and still do amazing things related to the mission I shared, which is advising and leading executives on topics that are truly crucial for our industries to tackle. And so happy to share more in that as the dialogue goes on.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome. For everybody on the call who doesn't know, I started my career at Bain, and I share the enthusiasm for what I learned about consulting and the superpower that it's been in my career since then. We're so glad to have you. Really glad to have you join us. Caitlin from Bates White, welcome.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Roach. I'm a manager in the finance practice at Bates White. So Bates White is an economic consulting firm, which is distinct from management consulting in that we focus on providing expert opinions in litigation spaces. So typically this is on issues like statistics, economics, damages calculations, and data analysis. We're based in Washington, D.C. and have approximately 300 or so employees. So it's a relatively small firm, which I think has led to many opportunities to take on more like leadership roles, especially early in your career. So I've been working at Bates White for 5.5 years, joining the firm when I graduated from Elon University in 2019, after completing a summer internship with the firm prior to graduation. I studied international economics, finance, and math, all of which have translated directly into my career at Bates White. So I now manage teams of both consultants and economists who have a PhD background doing complex data and statistical analysis. And I focus in the field of consumer finance, big data, and discriminatory lending. So at this stage in my career, I'm kind of involved in every stage of a case, from intaking and analyzing data to writing expert reports and preparing experts for testimony, presenting results to clients. In terms of why women should consider a career in consulting, I found this career path to be very fulfilling so far because the work is both intellectually challenging and I'm constantly learning, but it's also done in a very collaborative environment. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of working on a team and the mentorship aspect of both mentoring others and receiving really great mentorship from other women at the firm. Oh, and then the question on international candidates. Bates White sponsors work visas for PhD candidates, but does not sponsor work visas for other candidates.
Very helpful. Thank you. In fact, Jackie, can I go back to you? I don't know if you answered that question. Can you do you mind answering that for Bain?
I'm happy. Yes, at Bain, we are supportive of hiring individuals who want to work in the U.S. after school, and we sponsor visas.
Perfect. Thank you. Gorgeous. Okay, awesome. So Caitlin, you're part of the answer for women in consulting, but also, am I going to use this, right? When you're sitting in class, the answer is yes at Bates White, right? I love that you said that. That it dovetails in. There was always that question when you're sitting in a stats class in your sophomore year of college, am I going to ever use this? So I love to hear that that's true. Well, welcome again to the panel. We're so happy to have you here. Next, we'll move on to Capco. Chelsea, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be on today's panel. So my name is Chelsea Matias. I am a partner at Capco. Capco is the world's largest financial services only management consulting firm serving both the business and technology sectors. We do also have an energy practice as well, but primarily we are financial services focused. I have been at Capco for 14 years. Obviously I've found it really rewarding from a career development perspective. I am currently the global head of our capital markets business, which is our second largest business practice globally. And I run our US portfolio as a part of my main role. I'm also the global sponsor for our women's network internally, which is something that I'm really proud of because we've continued to grow it over the period of time where I've been at Capco. We go by the slogan, be yourself at work. I don't think it gets any more straightforward than that. We really appreciate and we believe people are their best selves when they can bring their whole self to work. And that, is, across the board in terms of all representation. In terms of international candidates, we do take international candidates at a not entry level, more towards experienced level hires. However, Capco is, as I mentioned, a global consulting firm. So we do have offices in all of the major hubs, and I would encourage, applications that way. And then why do I think women have, a great opportunity in consulting? We spoke a little bit about, I think in the intro, about the hard skills that are required in terms of analysis and, content, but at the heart of consulting, I believe it's truly a people-led business and a relationship business. And women are great at relationships. And I think that that's just, one of the soft skills that could be, focused in on, as we have this conversation today.
I love that. We can't wait to hear more about the Women's Network too. Really excited to understand the details of that. Glad that you're here. Chelsea, where are you based?
I am based out of New York.
Gorgeous. Okay, that makes sense. Wonderful. Clarkston, Latoya, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. My name is Latoya Lee Jones, and I'm a partner with Clarkston Consulting. I've been with Clarkston since 2003, and I tell everyone that my career in consulting started with my love for pizza because when I was in school at North Carolina A&T State University, they were doing an info session about consulting, and they were serving pizza. I was an industrial engineer, so I had no plans to go into consulting, but I was hungry. So I went into the info session, learned about consulting, and I immediately fell in love with the opportunities that it posed. So that's how my transition into consulting happened. As far as Clarkston, we've been in business for over 30 years. We help global companies with complex business challenges. We study and analyze the global drivers in the industries we serve, which are retail, consumer products, and life sciences, which is my focus. I lead our quality and compliance practice within our life sciences industry. And that focus allows us to bring that knowledge, diverse set of perspectives, and very skilled consultants to the companies that we serve. And we believe that defines who we are as a professional services firm, that industry focus. We have a broad set of services around strategy, operations, and implementations consulting that we customize for our clients in those industries. One reason that I think that, the international candidates. So we don't at this time sponsor visas. We do have a broad set of folks that work with the firm all across the US and some international stewards as well. But at this time, we're not presently sponsoring visas. And then the other question about the reason why I think women should consider a career in consulting, I believe that there's a wide range of opportunity to get exposure to the industry. You get hands-on practical experience, finding and delivering solutions to these companies, and understanding their business challenges, which is just way more than you'll ever get in, working in an industry sector, I believe. And also, frankly, if more women go into consulting, we have greater chances of changing that gender diversity that you talked about before at the highest levels, at the decision-making levels, at those leadership levels, and then inherently having an impact on the companies that we serve as well.
I love it. Latoya, I almost became a veterinarian because they had great snacks when I went there in middle school to shadow my local veterinarian. So I think everybody should make sure that you're including that on your, post-hire surveys, right? How was the food at the info sessions? That's really important. Sometimes we miss the stuff that really matters, Well, welcome to the panel.
Hey, Strategy Simplified, are you ready to land your dream consulting or corporate strategy job? On the Management Consultant Job Board, we've made it easier than ever to do just that. Create your free job seeker profile today and instantly unlock access to hundreds of top-tier job opportunities, all at no cost to you. Don't wait. Start your journey towards your dream career now through the Management Consultant Job Board. Your future in consulting is just one click away. Find the link to create your job seeker profile at the link in this episode's show notes.
Clearview, Kim, welcome.
Awesome. Lovely to meet everyone. My name is Kim Go. I'm a partner with Clearview Healthcare Partners, a life sciences strategy consulting firm. I got to Clearview. Originally, I thought I was, prior life going to be a doctor or get a PhD or something like that. I was very focused on the sciences and thought, I'll take a flyer on business. Came to Clearview knowing very little about the business of biotech and absolutely fell in love with it 12 years ago. Clearview now, we do life sciences planning and strategy. So everything from how do I build a portfolio in a particular area to how do I bring a particular drug to market. Most of our clients are in the biopharmaceutical manufacturing space or investors in that same area. When I joined the firm, we were really small, 50 people based out of Boston. Now we're about 500 based in the US and Europe. And I tell people now consulting comes in so many shapes and flavors and sizes. And even just within my own firm, I feel like I've seen 3 totally distinct companies. So happy to share some thoughts about that as we get into the panel in terms of how it shapes experience. I found that size of company and firm to be one of the bigger impact factors on what my career shaped out to be. In terms of our approach to international hiring, we do sponsor visas. And like I said, we have offices both in the US and internationally. And then why I think more women should get into consulting. Number one, I think probably what brought people in some way, shape, or form to this is consulting is a real rocket ship for your career. And we need more female leaders in business in general. And I think consulting is a great way to get there. Consulting is also a business of people, either your client or your team. And it's heavily, in my experience, driven on a mentorship model. And I think women have something really interesting and different to bring in terms of mentorship style. And there are definitely women at my firm who are seeking out female mentors because that's really what they've found works for them. And they learn something really different from the women that they work with. So I think there's lots of opportunity that women can tap into through consulting, but also a ton to bring to the table in our industry.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I love the idea of 3 firms within a firm since you've been there, and the fast growth for Clearview is really a testament to that. So yeah, let's dive into that as we move into the panel. Great. Putnam, last but not least.
Hi, my name is Madeline. I'm a manager at Putnam, and I'm in our New York office. I've also worked in our San Francisco office as well, and I'm originally from Boston, which is where Putnam also has an office. And similar to some of my other co-panelists, Putnam focuses on the life sciences. So we're a scientific and strategy-focused consulting firm. Our clients are biotechnology creators and pharmaceutical manufacturers and investment firms who are, working within those areas. I think that consulting is a very rewarding career path for women and, for all people, but especially women, because there's not many skills that you need to come into at an entry level. You really have the opportunity to learn a ton. Even in a life science strategy focused firm like Putnam, there's not really many prereqs beyond a willingness to kind of dive in and interest demonstrated. So it's a great way to learn things that you're interested about but don't have that much experience in. And I found that consulting skills, it really builds upon itself. So these are skills where I feel like you're constantly progressing throughout your career and could be a great stepping stone if you ever wanted to do something else. And also the skills that you learn in consulting help your personal life too. How do I relate to people? How do I resolve a conflict? Problem solving, all of those things. And then the last question, Putnam does sponsor international visas. So we're open to hiring international candidates as well.
Amazing. Madeline, I found that sometimes people don't appreciate me bringing my consulting life into my personal life when I'm advising them on the 3 points for why we should go to dinner at a certain restaurant. But I feel like if you have some advice on that, I would really love that through the course of the panel today. We've got an amazing group. If y'all can't see how incredible these women are, I just am so excited to dive in. I want to move now to some of the questions that both our audience helped us create and that we're getting really regularly inside the industry. This panel is happening at the beginning of 2025. I think that we can all already note that this is likely to be a year that will be unprecedented in ways that we haven't necessarily seen before. And there are also things that have not changed under the sun. So I would love to just begin with a basic functional question. What is one way that your firm specifically supports women during key life stages, such as starting a family, other personal transitions? Perhaps you can talk a little bit about office selection as well. And I'd like to kick this off with Capco. Chelsea, would you mind taking the lead on this one?
Sure, thank you. There's a bunch of things, and I'll just focus on a couple. So one, we, as I mentioned, we have a global women's network, and that network is, globally sponsored, but has regional presence to focus in on specific areas and specific topics that are impacting women within that country or that geographic location. And that helps us to create custom programming, for the women, within, once again, that region. What we have also looked to create, over time was a return to office plan. We'll say return to work instead of return to office, because now in the remote setting, returning to the office is being physically present. This is around creating programming for individuals, and it's not just focused for women, but it's gender neutral for individuals who have been out of the workforce for 18 to 24 months or greater. And we've created a program to acclimate them to come back into, a working environment and an ability to support clients. So this has been something that, many different individuals have taken advantage of. And it's also created, a safer environment, I would say, or a more comfortable environment for people to feel like they can come back in. And then generally we offer great benefits, health as well as social benefits to be able to support women through multiple phases of, their personal lives.
I love that. Chelsea, can I just push on that a little bit on the
Sure.
return to office, return to work? Why are people usually exiting the workforce, or is it the workforce or just Capco? And then are they, when they're coming back, what are two key needs that y'all are helping them facilitate? I just would love some more specifics, because that's a really wonderful concept.
Sure. So, Capco, as I mentioned, is a financial services and energy focused consulting firm. So I think as a financial services and consulting, we're going up against two very, barriers in terms of women feeling that they can come into either of those industries, right? So, we do see that women leave consulting specifically, within my organization, but I'm sure if you see research, it's just, I would like more balance. I would like to know exactly where I'm going to need to be, in 2 months from now or 2 years from now. I just would like some stability. And I did love, Jackie, when she said, her experience at Bain, is actually the opposite, right? She feels that she has great life balance. And that's something that we've been looking to strive for, in terms of the fact that we will work with you to manage it, because we appreciate all the value that you bring to the table. And we think that you can continue to grow, whether it be through having children, getting married, taking care of elderly parents. There's many different types of life-changing events, right? It's not just maybe the ones that we think about, off the top of our head, but we want to support through all of those.
Love that. Well, Jackie, we'll go to you next. Talk a little bit about Bain, formal or informal ways that you support women during key life stages.
Yeah, happy to. I think there are a number of different formal ways. Let me touch on briefly, and then I'd just love to share an example to bring it to life. So we have industry-leading benefits and policies that allow all Bainees to thrive personally and professionally. And all of the standard ones you expect, I'll highlight that in US are family leave is 21 weeks for all parents, regardless of gender, for births, adoptions, and surrogacy. And I'm incredibly proud to work at a firm that offers that. We also formally have our Women at Bain Affinity Group, which is a tremendous global community, but also very much an office-specific construct with a broad range of formal and informal programming, mentorship, and support for our women throughout all life stages. But when you ask this question, I can't help but think about kind of the broader mentorship and apprenticeship we have in our job. And so, for example, me personally, when I was headed into my first parental leave, I am the type of person that would have happily ran right into that brick wall serving my clients, and very, very happily doing that. And I give full credit to my office head and my regional practice leader, so the leader of healthcare and life sciences in Americas, both who happen to be men, for being the ones to engage me in the conversation of what should the next few months look like, and where is the right places to continue to learn and grow, but also make sure you're feeling good about what they both said is the most important thing next for you. And so I learned more about that work-life balance and the language and dialogue that I needed and I would need on the back end of coming back from folks in the firm who could have just as easily said, yeah, run right into that brick wall. That's great for all of us. And so I'm humbled by that experience. I'm incredibly grateful for it. And I think it is something that our culture really kind of sets to be the bar that we support all our individuals in whatever their life stages or life dynamics may be.
Love that. Jackie, were those formal or informal mentors? I feel like sometimes people ask about mentors and it's helpful to understand where those fall.
It's a great question. I would say each of those individuals has a formal role in my kind of work situation. So our office head plays an important role and our practice leader plays an important role. That said, over the years, they are kind of people that I have close relationships with. So probably informally support me, maybe beyond their existing kind of formal title.
I love it. And then did you return to work full time? Well, just because you mentioned earlier on that you've got these kiddos.
You know, I did, and I have done that in both my leaves, and my leaves were relatively close together, as you might imagine. I am confident that if there was a time that I wanted to explore a part-time path, that it's a route that exists. I know many of my peers and colleagues who have flexed with that. And so I'm grateful to know there's the option when I want to be my kid's basketball coach, because that is a life goal of mine. I just haven't had to choose that yet, but I hope I can. I hope they're good enough at basketball.
I love that. I have no ambition. My most aggressive child is my shortest by like a foot, right? And so so I hope that you get your wish there. I think I have a better chance in some other sports categories in my family. Awesome. In addition, I'd love to pull in Putnam. Would you mind sharing just a little bit about your experience with how women are supported at Putnam?
Yeah, definitely. So we have parental leave and a return to work policy. In addition to that, we have a working parent affinity group. But I want to talk about two other things that I think are really key or have been key to my development at Putnam as a woman and also to many other people at Putnam. First is we assign everyone a career advisor. So that's someone who's a few years more senior than you at the firm. And that person helps with your review cycles and kind of helps you set goals and navigate any challenges that you come across. I've found that to be really helpful, especially it's nice once you first join a firm to be set up with someone who's a little bit more senior than you to kind of learn the ropes from. In addition to that, we have a hired career coach. So it's a third party, but they help kind of advise people at Putnam. There's specific times where you get set up with that career coach, like if you're graduating towards or moving towards a certain level at the firm, but they're also available for informal connections. And I found that really valuable because that career coach kind of left the door open in case I had any kind of questions or needed help with an acute situation, because every woman's experience is unique and different. So I really loved that I had the ability to connect with someone who already knew me and knew Putnam really well and was able to kind of narrow in on a kind of situation that I was being faced with specifically. So I think Putnam does a great job of trying to figure out the formal and informal ways to help support women.
I love that. I don't know if you're able to share a little bit more about the challenge or a challenge that you faced that you took to either an internal or the external mentor. Are you able to share a little bit more color around that? Because I think a lot of people might resonate with, oh gosh, I could see that coming up in my career and I would love to know what kind of support I'd have.
Yeah, definitely. I think my answer won't be a surprise to too many people. In consulting, there could be times where your workload gets to be a lot. And it was centered around navigating that. It was kind of the culmination of multiple projects that led to working a lot of hours at a time and me kind of not really knowing how to navigate that, and working with a coach to help really set priorities and make sure that I had kind of my goals in mind and was able to navigate through that.
Heads up, future consultants. If you're serious about breaking into consulting, but you know that you'll need all the help you can get, join our Super Prep program to change your chances. Check out the link in this episode's show notes to confirm your seat for the next Super Prep cohort. In Super Prep, we'll help you add business and consulting experience to your resume to fill in gaps through a 1-week virtual consulting project known as Strategy Sprint. These projects run once a quarter. Next, we'll help you integrate your new consulting experience into your resume and cover letter through custom edits by our MBB team. We'll help weave a compelling narrative through your resume and cover letter to display how your unique background and skill set makes you an ideal candidate for your target firms. From there, an MBB coach will build a custom prep plan for you and guide you through case and fit interview prep. Recruiters love candidates who bring both consulting experience and polish to the table, and Super Prep will allow you to do both, plus the confidence to shine in your interviews. We run Super Prep cohorts once a quarter, so check out the link in the show notes to confirm your seat today. In addition, you can book a call with a member of our team before you join. Look forward to seeing you in Super Prep.
I'll move on to the second question now. I'm interested in the evolution of the consulting industry as it's either grown or you could also say declined, right? So I'm interested in your perspective, no matter what it looks like, towards supporting women and an opportunity for continued growth. So Kim, I'm going to call on you first for Clearview, since you kind of already mentioned there have been 3 firms since your tenure there. I feel like you probably have a very unique perspective on this. How has the firm grown? Or fallen away potentially from supporting women, and what's an opportunity for growth?
I will say when the 3 founders of our company are men, and so part of that growth has been a dramatic expansion of the leadership team, and now having more balance. We're almost 50-50 now with a leadership team of men and women, and I would say that just culturally that had a pretty significant impact, going from a small firm where everyone had a small firm has to struggle to survive a little bit too. So everyone's on call. It's a bit crazy, to trying to get to a more sustainable place. And I feel like doing that has really helped support, particularly the mothers within our leadership team. The transition into more remote work as well has dramatically changed the structure of our job. If you're thinking about a long-term career in consulting, like we used to have to be on the road constantly in a way that we don't anymore. And that opens up a lot of freedom and less inequity between someone who's in a position where they can travel versus someone who's maybe a new mother, for example, who really can't travel as much. So that's been an evolution that I'm curious if others have seen as well. And then within our firm, I would say that the women who have been sort of the early additions to leadership teams, starting to build that balance that we've been able to achieve, spent a lot of time helping open the eyes of some of our male colleagues as to how they could support us. So one example is in the beginning, for like all of our men in the firm are dads as well. So, but it was very rare just when we were getting going for everyone to take full paternity leave. So the women really spent a lot of time telling our male colleagues, like, please take your full paternity because it makes it more even when, I want to have a child and I want to be able to take my full maternity leave. So things like that were a big cultural win, I would say, for us, that evolved over the course of maybe going from like 50 to 150 people. As we had to kind of formalize some of those elements around what it would mean to build a culture that was more open to women.
Love that. Thank you for that specific example too. That's really a great highlight. Bates White, what about you?
So I've only been working in consulting for around 5 years. So that isn't a super long time to observe growth in the industry, but I did think of 2 things that I've seen at Bates White. I think first of all, when I joined the firm, I work in the finance practice, which is a fairly small practice at Bates White. And when I joined, there were probably 2 or 3 partners, but they were all men. And now 2 of the 5 partners are women. So it's been really cool to see the change in leadership in the practice. And one of those people is a really great mentor to me as well. So I've been able to kind of see her journey a little bit closer. So that's the first thing that came to mind, is just seeing that change in leadership. I think there's still, room to grow in that area in the industry overall. I think we need more women in leadership. But it has been cool to start seeing that happen. And then the second thing I was thinking of, touching on some things that others have mentioned, is with COVID, there's just been a lot more discussion about flexible work hours and hybrid schedules. And Bates White has been very good about being flexible, working with individual people to find a schedule that works for them. And so we have like in-office coordinated days, but they're very flexible. If you need to stay home one day, if you're sick, you need to take care of a child or anything like that. I think there's just a lot of flexibility, and there's a lot of discussion about that I didn't really see as much before COVID. And then the only other thing in terms of opportunities for continued growth, I think the fields that we're typically recruiting from are still very male dominated, especially in economic consulting. We're often recruiting PhD economists. I think only 30% of those graduates are women. And then in undergraduate fields as well, we're often recruiting from STEM fields. So I think there's still opportunity to increase the pool of candidates and to be encouraging more young women and girls to pursue STEM fields, just to increase like the pool of applicants that we're getting.
I love that. And one of the things that we're seeing a real increase in, and just in the last 36 months, have been universities that want to support students doing case competitions, which really helps to tie together the practical aspects of STEM, I think, in a way that's different than working in the science fields only. And so that's given a lot of voice inside our university communities to giving people earlier career exposure to these types of fields, which I think could make a really significant difference. I love to hear that. Okay, last but not least, Clarkston, what about you? How has it grown in supporting women? Is the pizza better than it used to be, right? Tell us all the important stuff.
Pizza's definitely better.
It's so much better, right? Like,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot more of it. I will say, I think I'd have to echo what Kim and Caitlin mentioned. The remote working has definitely eliminated a barrier to entry for women in that space. I also think the rise of more networks, like the global network that Chelsea leads. We have a women's empowerment network at Clarkston as well. I think finding those opportunities to support and come together and discuss some of these things that maybe we weren't talking about before on, what it's like to be a woman in this space and what things that we may have to do a little bit differently than our counterparts. I also want to extrapolate on the fact that we're seeing more women in leadership. Seeing examples that look like us, seeing how they're managing their careers and their work life and navigating this industry, having those examples is really impactful on those who want to come into this space and know that there's a way to go about it, and that opportunity is there for them as well, because they're seeing those examples. So the influx of our leadership team has changed drastically in the time that I've been here as well, from a gender perspective. So seeing that and knowing that I too could accomplish that as well was motivating to me, and I know it will be to others as well. I think we talked a little bit about this as well, and I saw a glimpse come through on one of the questions in the chat about, entering the industry at a later stage. I think people should really consider that. I love the idea of folks at the college level getting more exposure to the fact that consulting is an opportunity for them, that they can go into consulting as a woman and be very successful. But even as you're changing careers or maybe coming back into the workplace, leveraging the industry expertise that you've gained from your previous experience and bringing that to consulting is absolutely something that can be done. And frankly, at our firm, we cherish. We want folks that have that industry expertise that they can apply to our clients. So getting more accessibility and helping women understand that this is a career path that they can choose, I think is something that we can do a better job of.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that was my story. I shaved my head and traveled the world and thought I was going to work in international development. And then moving over to Bain was surprisingly similar to the wild world that I had found. But yeah, finding the welcome and the support, I'm sure you could speak to that too, going forward. But the support of the consulting firms in terms of skill development was vital to me. I didn't know that I had so much opportunity there. Great. Well, let's move on. We've got a quick question now. Just one key tip for women to navigate the ups and downs of consulting work-life balance, whether it's mindset or tactics. And Madeline, I'm going to go back to you since you kind of already opened this door a little bit. I don't know if you got a key tip that you can share with other people, but what's something that you would recommend when women are both thinking about and practically trying to navigate work-life balance?
It's a great question. So I think when you're working in consulting, you're going to be working with a lot of different types of people. And there's certain people who you're kind of looking up to and admiring. And those are the people that you could really kind of lean on if you need help navigating something, or if you want to know how to approach a situation. So even if the answer to that is, the person who I look up to would disagree with person X, then you could say, okay, I feel more confident that I have a different opinion than this person. So really identify the people that you think you kind of admire the most and think you should be kind of walking in their footsteps, and either think in your head, what would they do? Or even ask them directly, like, I'm in this circumstance, how would you approach this? And then you'll feel more confident heading into that situation.
Love that. Kim, Clearview, what is a perspective that you can share here? One tip.
It's an observation, but sort of a tip. The people who I found I have the longest standing, most respectful relationships with are people who early on in my interaction with them, I said no to something. And I think for me, it was counterintuitive. I thought the people who would value me the most are the ones who I would always say yes to, always get it done. But those with whom I asserted, this is the value that I bring, and I'm not going to do that for you, are the ones that have actually persisted the most and who I have the most sort of reciprocal relationships with. So that certainly helps when it comes to managing your own work-life balance and figuring out where you really want to focus your own time.
I love that. Do you say no, or do you say, I can see a way to get this done for you, but it's not going to happen?
Yeah, here's the trade-off.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Okay, I love it. Bates White, back to you. What about an answer for this? How's something, a tip that you've learned about managing work-life balance effectively?
I think similar to what Kim said with just setting and communicating clear boundaries sometimes. I think there are certain times where you do need to work the long hours, the deadline's coming up, and there are other times where it's not as urgent, and understanding when things are urgent and when they're not, and setting the boundaries sometimes. So an example of this is like leaving your work phone at home while you're out to dinner with friends. Like, you don't always need to be on call. And I think that was a hard learning experience for me. Like, earlier in my career, I felt like I always needed to be available, but I think you can set those boundaries with people and people respect you. And others, I've noticed more junior people on my teams really respond well to that, because then they realize like they're allowed to sometimes set a boundary as well. And so then when you're asking them for things, they know it's only when it's urgent when you're asking them. So when you're setting that example for other people, then I think that builds a better like team environment as well.
Love that. Thank you. I'm going to move to another quick question for some of our other panelists. Is there a special way for women to network into an interview pipeline at your firm? So for example, if you were a woman on the outside right now thinking about looking in, are there women's groups? Are there events? Are there specific pipelines that you would recommend? Bain, Jackie, I'll have you go first.
Yeah, happy to jump in, and I'll be quick here given time. I think there's a broad range of opportunities for women to network in. I think first and foremost on your campus, you will likely find Women at Bain supported events. And so those are certainly places I would highly recommend, given our Women at Bain group has pillars focused on recruiting and making connections with women during the recruiting process. And oftentimes those relationships stay all the way through. I have drinks tonight with someone I interviewed, and she was a woman at a business school at that time, and she's been my professional development advisee ever since, and it's the highlight of both of our days. We also have several exploratory recruiting programs focused on women in North America, EMEA, and APAC. For the details on those, definitely encourage you to visit our website. I think you'll find all of the information, but know that there are specific programs with regional differences that you'll find posted there.
Awesome. And Jackie, we can get some of that information out to the audience today in our broader list as well. So we'll coordinate with you on that. Thank you. How about Clarkson? What about y'all? A specific way for women to network in?
Yeah, so we are very heavy on LinkedIn. So every event that we attend, any opportunities that you're looking out for to learn more about Clarkson, to learn more about our folks, LinkedIn is a great way to do that. You'll find where we're going to be, and you're welcome to join us there. Attending events like this is a great way. Now, you have an immediate connection there. I also always tell folks to reach out to their alumni networks, because you'll find a lot of the folks that you went to school with or have gone to the same school as you work in the places that you're trying to go. And we hire very heavily from our alumni schools. So you leverage those networks to connect with folks and other women who are in the consulting space. to make those inroads, and that's certainly a way to do so. I actually, one of my colleagues today, we had an immediate connection because we both went to A&T, and so that's a great way to make connections and find other women who are working in consulting.
I can see the slogan, right? Come for the pizza, stay for the possibilities. That's what, right? That's what the events are. I love it. Kapka, what about you, Chelsea?
So checked everything Jackie said and checked everything Latoya said. What I would also I know we're talking about networking, but at the same time, I just urge everyone to apply, apply. Because we don't often always get the candidates that we want to see in the application process because individuals, and I will say, sometimes mostly women are holding themselves back. So it's okay to not, have every single thing on your resume. If you're interested in it, go for it. Because you may get the call, you may not get the call, but you're never going to know. So the more that we have in the pipeline to actually review as applicants, it feeds the pipeline for leadership, it feeds the pipeline for our teams. Do all of the things that Jackie and Latoya mentioned around networking and, interacting on LinkedIn and differentiating yourself, but it also starts with applying.
I love that. Thank you. In fact, Japheth, to that point, if you want to drop a link, we have a job board at Management Consulted. I think that most, if not all, the firms are represented on there already, but if not, when you have open opportunities, they're coming up on the job board. But that's one way that everybody who's listening can make sure that you have access. And also, if you submit your resume there, it'll be in the resume book for a number of the firms. So that's a really a great suggestion. Just get out there, right? Just put your resume in front of people. Awesome. Well, I want to move on now to some of our audience questions, and I have not selected who's going to answer these. I'd love for you to just jump in if you have something spicy to say. And I love this first question. It's, what is the most surprising aspect of being a woman in consulting? And specifically, the follow-up question I think is interesting. Are there myths or stereotypes that you had that ended up being either correct or incorrect about the field?
I can jump in. So as I mentioned, we're a financial services firm, we are a consulting firm, and we're also a technology firm. So, all of those industries are heavily male dominated. From a consulting perspective, when we're going into an investment bank or we're going into, a commercial bank or a retail bank, and we're working with executives that a lot of the time are males, I am so surprised how welcoming and how much they want women on their team. And sometimes they're looking for the consulting firms to bring that because they haven't been successful internally in doing that. And it's a great way for women at all levels and individuals at all levels to get access to the fast learning that everyone spoke about in the beginning. So I don't know if it's, as a consultant, I think that being a woman is something that you can really drive home on, and people want women in their teams. We bring a different perspective and we bring that creative thinking.
Gorgeous. Anybody else?
I want to tag on to something kind of similar to what Chelsea shared. So when I first joined Putnam, I was having a coffee chat with someone and they connected me to another woman at the firm who was in a leadership role. I thought that was really nice, but now I've been at Putnam for over 4 years and I'm looking back at who are my mentors, who are my advocates, and some of the biggest ones have been the men at the firm. So I just want to share, connecting to women with other women is great, and often that's a great way to kind of make that initial connection, especially in a male-dominated field. But ultimately, that's not the only place where you can get strong mentorship.
Incredible insight. Great. Well, one of the next questions, Madeline, you're one step ahead of me. I'm loving this. It's just, how do you find and develop mentors and advocates? So you mentioned you reached out to some of the men in the firm, but I don't know if they also, if that was reciprocal, if they also kind of, selected you, if there was a structure around that. But for any of you at your firms, how do you find these mentors and the advocates that can help you navigate these waters?
I'm happy to jump in. I think there's a broad range of options. When you join, often you're assigned a formal mentor. You'll have projects that start up where you may find people and leadership team members on your teams that you kind of jive with, and you actually make that cadence start happening and they become informal mentors. I think you can also, at Bain specifically, meet folks at global training and other events that really align with your interests and can continue that network globally. And the last thing I'll say is there might be times in your career where the types of questions you're asking actually don't benefit from the perhaps echo chamber of mentors that you have created that are aligned with kind of who you were in the past, 2 or 3 years, but are actually you're wanting to think outside the box. And I have had no fear in cold emailing those people or asking someone for a reference to get different points of view. And I have never heard a no. And if anything, I've had the offer of more time and follow-ups, et cetera. And then the last thing I'll add is I was surprised. I don't know if it's typical to be surprised how much clients can end up being mentors in ways, whether women or men, but oftentimes my female clients from growing up in the firm are still some of my closest colleagues and the ones wanting to see baby pictures, et cetera. And they may have moved on in their careers as well, but I think clients as both clients and then mentors as relationships evolve is a pretty incredible gift that I'm very grateful for.
I'd like to jump into two things I've done when I'm looking for mentors. I look for people who are in the roles that I wanted to be. So people who I was hoping to emulate or potentially follow a same trajectory with my career. Those are the people I reached out and sought as mentors, whether they be male or female, because I wanted to make sure that I was learning as much as I could about their path and their journey and seeing how I could apply that to my own, not necessarily trying to replicate it, but apply it to me and make sure that it was going to be my journey as well. The other thing I did, and I think it's similar to what you just mentioned, Jackie, was that I also thought about reaching out to those folks who may be in positions of influence, who could take me to a certain place, and not being afraid to do that. I guess is the key piece there, because sometimes we look at those folks and say, oh, they don't have time, or they don't want to hear from me, or maybe they won't want to take me on as a mentee. But eliminating that fear and just doing that initial reach out, you'll make some of the best connections. You'll be surprised how much advocacy you'll get from those folks as well.
Super insightful. I'll ask one final question. This is about female candidates from non-traditional backgrounds. And I'll never forget, I was in a Bain women's meeting and we were sitting there and one of the women was talking about how her spouse always felt like he was more qualified than he was. And she always felt like she was less qualified than she was. And she was startled by the kind of gender difference of their perspectives. So for female candidates from non-traditional backgrounds, how do they position themselves in the market as a prime candidate? And how do they know when they're on the right track?
I'm happy to speak to this. So I first want to acknowledge that there's more progress to be made in the world of consulting and in other professional careers for women. I think if you're coming from a non-traditional background, then the employers that you're going to want to be working with are going to be ones who are hiring you based off your potential and not what's already on your resume. So both your potential and your interests. So those are the things that you want at the forefront when you're interviewing. You want to show and state directly why you think you would be successful in that role. It doesn't need to come from past work experience. It could be from dealing with interpersonal conflict or, a family situation, an academic environment. It could really, or, something that you've navigated on your own. Any of those to really demonstrate how you can make that transferable skill. This also echoes what Chelsea was saying, just apply, just go for it. Because I think, if you could share that with your employer or potential employer, it's not going to work out 100% of the time, but the people who say yes are the right people that you want to be working with.
And maybe, Madeline, just to build on what you said, because we, being a healthcare company, have had a few people come out of situations where maybe they were on a totally different career path, but they encountered the healthcare system in a way that was important to them. So whether they were diagnosed with something or they were a caregiver to someone, which not only disrupted their career path, but also sort of set them into a direction where they had a passion for the life sciences. So as kind of an example of one of the pieces of what you said, we've had people come to our firm with a desire to have an impact in that space. And they really focused on that as why they were coming to consulting at this point in time. And they've come through our interview process. They've been really fascinating people to get to know because they come at it from a very different angle. So it doesn't have to be a professional thing that makes you different. It can be any aspect of your life experience.
Love it. Well, just in the interest of time, I'll wrap up with what I think is always the most important question of the day, which is what's your piece of advice that you would leave with folks? And so I'm going to just go in the reverse order from the way that we started and let everybody jump in here. Before we close the panel, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your perspectives. I think I probably speak for everybody listening and saying that we could have 2 hours with each one of you and still not get to the bottom of the richness of your experience. And so thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. So we'll kick off with Putnam. So Madeline, what's your piece of advice that you would give for women considering applying for or working to thrive in consulting?
So if you're looking to break into consulting or really breaking into any field that you don't already have experience in, initially you're going to have what I'll call like some silly questions up front. So I'd really encourage you to find people that you could have really low stakes conversations with about the industry. So maybe not the, a potential employer is the first person that you're going to talk to, but it's going to be your mom's, hairdresser's daughter who's also in consulting. And just having those conversations to have a little bit of practice and get those silly questions out will build a lot of confidence and help you do better in the interviews when you do have more of those higher stakes conversations that could be leading to a potential job.
Great suggestion. Thanks. Kim from Clearview.
I'll say in consulting, like there's situations where you're going to find you're the only woman on the Zoom or in the room or at the table. And I think it's easy at times to fall into the trap of I'm different. And a mindset shift towards what is the difference I can make has been really helpful for a lot of the women in our company, just as a way to kind of encounter maybe their first client situation, if maybe they're a bit nervous. And that definitely applies to the interview process as well, sort of reorienting a little bit that mindset. So if that's helpful to you, thinking through what is the unique facet that I can bring as opposed to feeling a sense of separation from that.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Latoya.
I always tell folks to be flexible and adaptable. Have a clear goal in mind for what you want your career to be, but be willing to, take an unexpected route, take a risk, do something that you weren't planning to get there. It's important to have that end goal and know what that end goal is, so you keep your focus, but you never know what life's going to throw at you, and being willing to take, an unexpected path is going to keep you moving in a positive direction. I always believe that, the most growth comes in the discomfort. So being willing to be a little bit uncomfortable is going to be positive for you.
Couldn't agree more. Awesome. Chelsea.
Similar to Latoya, if you have an opportunity, take it, learn from it, take everything you possibly can out of it, the good, the bad. And then, once again, to Latoya's point, how do you adjust? How do you continue to move forward? And, I always say being a woman is your superpower. So if I'm not pro women enough after this call, but that's our superpower, right? So use it.
Love it. I love how you've really tied also, Chelsea, together that it's so good for business to have women in, right? I think that you've really illuminated that. Thank you for bringing that to the call. Bates White, Caitlin.
I think some of the best advice I've received is to write down what you learn from every person you work with. And so you can always learn something from every single person, whether it's like, these are things I want to imitate, or these are things that like weren't as effective, and learn from those things from every person that you work with, and keep track of who you want to be at work by imitating what you see around you.
Amazing. Last but not least, Jackie.
Great. A lot of great advice so far. So all I'll add is don't caveat yourself and don't apologize unless you truly did something wrong. Know your worth, and that is all you need to be.
I love it. Well, I can't help but add mine from a male mentor early in my career when I tried to opt out of work. He said, the only question is it's not whether you've done it before, but whether you can do it. And I think that really made me refocus on my potential and the possibility instead of my history. And I'd really encourage a lot of you guys to let go of your worry and your limitation and to just go for it. Thank you all so much for your perspectives today. Thank you for everyone who joined us live. We're so grateful for you following along, asking questions, submitting fantastic questions. You really make the panels hear what they can be. And we're really excited to see how consulting and women together can make a difference in 2025. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Strategy Simplified. I really hope you got a lot out of this discussion around women in consulting. So if you did, we'd love to get your rating, your review on whichever podcast platform you're listening on. So go ahead and take 12 seconds, 30 seconds to leave that rating and review. It really does help the show out. If you've got any questions, please reach out, team@managementconsulted.com. We love helping folks break into and succeed inside management consulting and corporate strategy. Cheers.